दर्शक पंडितजी, हरिभाई शाह आणि आपण सर्व जमलेले म्हणजे बंधू होते. हा कार्यक्रम आम्ही जेव्हा इंडस्ट्रीयल उद्योग सेलचे लोक एकत्र बसलो आणि घ्यायचा ठरवला तेव्हा काय विषयावरती घ्यायचा याच्यावरती खूप चर्चा झाली. आणि मग आम्ही अशा एका निर्णयाला पोहोचलो की पॉलिटिक्स ऑफ डेव्हलपमेंट किंवा विकासाचं राजकारण हाच या निवडणुकीचा मुद्दा आहे. आणि त्याचवरती आपण हा कार्यक्रम एक उद्योग आघाडीचा कार्यकर्ता म्हणून तुम्हाला छोटासा एक्सपिरियन्स सांगू इच्छितो. 2010 साली मी अमेरिकेतनं MBA करून आल्यानंतर इकडे माझा व्यवसाय सुरू केला आणि मग आपण अमेरिकेत आल्यावर खूप जोश असतो आणि मग त्याच्या ह्याच्यात माझ्यानंतर एक 6-8 महिने मी काम केल्यानंतर मला लक्षात आलं की पुणे महानगरपालिका, आपलं राज्य सरकार आणि केंद्र सरकार सगळं काँग्रेसच्या ताब्यात. त्यांचे नियम आणि फ्रेमवर्क इतके क्लिष्ट आहेत की त्यात एक उद्योजक कामच करू शकत नाही. हे शक्यच नाही. कुठलाही विषय का तुम्ही LPTचा असू दे, बँक रिटर्नचा असू दे, काम करणंच शक्य नाही. आणि आपण यांना काही प्रश्न विचारायला गेलो तर त्याची उत्तरही मिळत नाही. याच सगळ्या विषयावरती आज आपण बोलण्यासाठी आमचे राष्ट्रीय प्रवक्ते त्यांना इकडे बोलवलेलं आहे आणि एक छोटासा सत्काराच्या कार्यक्रमानंतर आपण हा कार्यक्रम सुरू करू. तर सर्वांना हेच विनंती आहे की जास्तीत जास्त प्रश्न आपण निर्मला विचारावेत आणि त्याही उत्तर देतील. आत्ताच काय म्हटलं की इम्फाल सारख्या एखाद्या नॉर्थ ईस्ट मध्ये सुद्धा 22 जणांनी प्रश्न विचारले आणि त्यातले 18 प्रश्न हे विकासावरती होते. त्यामुळे आपल्याकडे खूप प्रश्न येतील अपेक्षा करतो आणि आता आपण कार्यक्रमाला सुरुवात करू. थँक्यू.
आपण इकडे एक छोटा सत्कार समारंभ करणार. मी इंडस्ट्री सेलचे को-कन्व्हिनर महाराष्ट्र प्रदेश सौरभ पटवर्धन यांना विनंती करतो की त्यांनी निर्मलाजींचा सत्कार करावा. थँक्यू. मी चंद्रभूषण जोशी संवाद सेल कन्व्हिनर पुणे यांना विनंती करतो की त्यांनी प्रदीप राव यांचा सत्कार करावा. मी आता सुजित शिवकर जनरल सेक्रेटरी संवाद सेल यांना विनंती करतो की त्यांनी माधवजी भंडारी यांचा सत्कार करावा. तसंच सुजितजींना मी परत विनंती करतो की त्यांनी हरिभाई शाह यांचाही सत्कार करावा. आज आपल्याकडे संस्कृतचे खूप मोठे पंडित वसंतराव गाडगे हेही आलेले आहेत. आय रिक्वेस्ट निर्मलाजी टू प्लीज फेलिसिटेट पंडित वसंतराव गाडगे. मी सौरभ पटवर्धनांना विनंती करतो की त्यांनी RP सिंग यांचा सत्कार करावा.
Good evening to all of you, and I'm so excited to see this fantastic turnaround on this event. Just to introduce myself, my name is RP Singh. I'm a convener for Friends of BJP in Maharashtra. Background is that I run an IT consulting company based in US in India, and prior to this I worked with IBM and Microsoft for almost 10 years before starting my own venture. I would like to really we are honored that Nirmala ji accepted our invitation to come to Pune. Thanks to the support of Madhavji for it is his support that we see such a fantastic turnaround at Pune, and at the same time welcoming all other distinguished guests and welcoming all of you. I won't take much of time, but just try quickly speak about, I will cover for 3 minutes, I will speak about. Primarily, Friendship BJP is a set of people who are urban, educated, IT professionals, lawyers, doctors, who thought instead of discussing politics and being indifferent and cynical at home, why don't we step out of our home, make a difference? Our objectives are very clear. Each of us, if we get 100 people to vote, and believe me, it is possible to do that. Because each of you are a role model in your family, friends. If you really take an effort, and if each of us can get 100 people to vote, all of us represent the 30% of India. The 70% of the India votes, no doubt. And a lot of policies are actually designed for those 70%. This 30% indifference is harming. What is our requirement? We want job, we want security, we want education, we want healthcare, we want growth. These are the set of requirements that we have. So Friends of BJP is a platform which attracts such people rather than being at home, come out. And also clarify this myth among people that politics is bad and politicians are bad. Not every politician is bad, and politics is a very critical tool to bring socio-economic change. And I like this line normally stated by Nitinji, that politics is a tool of bringing socio-economic change, as dharma is to bring, and so is politics. So politics is not untouchable, and it is very inspiring nowadays when I see this India 272 team there, that coming forward and playing a role. Even if we spend 10 hours per month of our time in terms of making this difference, we are making a huge difference to this country. So with this, I have a couple of points. I will read this. Chief point which is very highlighted what I talk about is that we know that the road infrastructure which was built by NDA from 1997 to 2000 was 23,814 kilometers, which was 50% of the entire road built in the last 30 years. And similarly, whereas from 2002 to 2012, only 16,000 kilometers of road was built. When NDA left the government in 2004, our GDP was something like 8.3. And when they picked up, it was 4.3. So we took the graph from 4.3 to 8.3. And from 8.3 now it has come back to 4.7. A lot of people, we think GDP generally not understood by a lot of people, okay, inflation, GDP, more of economic term. In a very simple terms, 1% GDP means 40 lakh jobs. If we increase our GDP by 1%, we get 10 lakh direct jobs and 30 lakh indirect jobs. So that's why GDP is so important. So these are the factors which are very important to us. The country's GDP, which is 4.7% or something, it is the BJP ruled states, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, these states have maintained 10 to 11% of GDP for last 5, 7, 10 years. And that's why our average is like 4.7. Otherwise, believe me, we would have been running something like a 3%. So these are the factors why Friends of BJP is inspired. These are the things that we want to speak to people. We want to tell people that, look, you can't ignore politics. On the day of election, if you go to Mahabaleshwar and Mathiran, believe me, it's very irresponsible. It is damaging this country. So with this, I want to cut it short and request all of you to participate, make a difference to the country. Friends of BJP is a nationwide organization headed by Rajesh Jain. Manoj Arora is a co-convener. He has played a critical role for this event to happen here. We want to expand across Maharashtra, and we would welcome people who want to be part of this initiative and make a difference to this country. With this, I will end, and thanks, and welcome to the next part of the program. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. After this, we are going to have a launch of a book. The book is written by Shri Vinay Patrale. He is a writer and a former Pracharak of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangha. This book is written in Marathi, and the name of this book is Shri Narendra Bhai Modi, Ek Alautik Vyaktivat. This book has been translated in the English language by Prasanna Deshpande. He is an assistant professor in the Ferguson College. And the name of this book is Shri Narendra Bhai Modi, a remarkable personality. So I request Nirmala ji to please launch the book. I would like to introduce Mr. Prasanth Deshpande, the translator of this book. Please give a huge round of applause for him. Thank you. यानंतर आपण निर्मलाजींना एक छोटी भेट देणार आहोत. लोकमान्य टिळक यांनी लिहिलेलं गीता रहस्य याचं इंग्लिश ट्रान्सलेशन आहे. तरी माधव भंडारींना यांना विनंती करतो की त्यांनी निर्मलाजींना भेट द्यावी. मी माधवजींना विनंती करतो की त्यांनी थोडंसं बोलावं.
आदरणीय निर्मलाजी, माननीय दादा रावत, माझे सहकारी आरपी सिंग, माननीय हरिभाई शहा, मंचावर उपस्थित असलेले सर्व माझे तरुण सहकारी, सगळ्यांची नावं करण्यात आली. गेल्या काही महिन्यांमध्ये पुण्यात आणि महाराष्ट्राच्या वेगवेगळ्या भागांमध्ये आम्ही वेगवेगळ्या मार्गाने लोकांपर्यंत पोहोचण्याचा प्रयत्न करतो. त्यासाठी छोटे छोटे कार्यक्रम, छोट्या सभा, छोट्या चर्चांचे कार्यक्रम त्यांचं आयोजन वेगवेगळ्या सेल्सच्या माध्यमातून करतो. जसं आता आरपी सिंगने आपल्याला सांगितलं की फ्रेंड्स ऑफ बीजेपीच्या माध्यमातून काही कार्यक्रम केले. आमचा जो IT क्षेत्रामध्ये काम करणार असेल त्याच्या माध्यमातून केले. सोशल कम्युनिकेशन्स आणि सोशल मीडियामध्ये काम करणारे जे कार्यक्रम आहेत त्यांच्या माध्यमातून काही कार्यक्रम केले. आणि हे सर्व कार्यक्रम हे लोकांशी संवाद करण्याचे कार्यक्रम होते, जाहीर सभांचे कार्यक्रम फारसे नव्हते. आणि या सर्व कार्यक्रमांचा आम्हाला अत्यंत उत्तम प्रतिसाद मिळाला, अत्यंत चांगला अनुभव आला. पुण्यामध्येच आजचा हा 6वा कार्यक्रम आहे की ज्यामध्ये अशा तऱ्हेने एक ज्यांच्यामुळे लोकांच्या मतांवर परिणाम होऊ शकतो अशा मंडळींबरोबर संवाद साधण्याचा हा एक प्रयत्न आम्ही पुण्यामध्ये परत एकदा करतो. आणि या कार्यक्रमात आपण सर्वजण आलं त्याबद्दल मी सर्वांचं मनापासून स्वागत करतो. त्याचबरोबर आपल्या सगळ्यांचे आभारही मानतो. Nirmala, today we have got a very distinguished crowd, and there are many prominent personalities from Pune city. They are here. They are from different walks of life, but they are very effective in their own way. They have some influence on society. एक निर्मलाजींच्या रूपाने आपण निर्मलाजींना अनेकदा बघतो. साधारण संध्याकाळी 7-8 झाले की निर्मलाजी आपल्या सगळ्यांच्या घरामध्ये असतात. आणि ते त्या पद्धतीने अर्णव गोस्वामीला नो तर ते आपल्या सगळ्यांना अत्यंत आवडत असतात. म्हणून आम्ही निर्मलाजीने विनंती केली होती की तुम्ही आम्हाला थोडा वेळ द्या. आज त्यांनी दिवस आपल्याला दिला आणि वेगवेगळ्या कार्यक्रमांच्या माध्यमातून आपल्याशी त्या संवाद करणार. आपण निर्मलाजींना जरी रोज बघत असलो तरी त्यांच्या व्यक्तिमत्वाचे सगळे पैलू आपल्याला माहिती असतात. त्या मूळ तामिळनाडूमध्ये जन्म घेतला, शिक्षण तिथेच झालं. नंतर विवाहानंतर आंध्रात गेल्या. इकॉनॉमिक्सच्या MA जवाहरलाल नेहरू विद्यापीठातून त्यांनी MPhil केलं. जवाहरलाल नेहरू विद्यापीठ हे मुद्दा मी सांगतो कारण त्या तत्वज्ञानाशी संबंध आहे. आणि तिथे MPhil केल्यानंतर त्यांनी हैदराबादमध्ये स्वतःचं शिक्षण संस्था चालू केली, एक शाळा चालवली. त्या शाळा आपली स्वतःची वेगळ्या पद्धतीची असली पाहिजे म्हणून भारतातल्या वेगवेगळ्या शाळांचे जे प्रयोग चालू होते त्या ठिकाणी जाऊन त्यांचा काम चालू केलं. त्यासाठी त्या ज्ञानप्रबोधिनीतही आल्या होत्या आणि ज्ञानप्रबोधिनीच्याच बऱ्याचशा आराखड्यावरती त्यांनी आपल्या शाळेचं काम चालू केलं. नंतर त्या लंडनला 5 वर्ष होत्या. लंडनहून आल्यानंतर भारतामध्ये त्यांनी एक पॉलिसी रिसर्च सेंटर चालू केलेलं आहे हैदराबादमध्ये. 2009 पासून त्या भारतीय जनता पार्टीच्या पूर्णवेळ कार्यकर्त्या म्हणून बाहेर पडल्या. आणि सगळ्यात महत्त्वाचा पैलू आपल्याला सांगायला मला आवडेल आणि आपल्याला ऐकून थोडा आश्चर्याचा सुखद धक्का बसेल की त्यांच्या सामाजिक सार्वजनिक जीवनाची सुरुवात राष्ट्रसेविका समितीपासून झाली. म्हणजे राष्ट्रसेविका समिती ते जवाहरलाल नेहरू युनिव्हर्सिटी ते भाजप असा प्रवास आहे. आणि त्यामुळे त्यांच्या व्यक्तिमत्वातले जे वेगवेगळे पैलू आपल्याला नेहमी बघायला मिळतात त्याची पाळंमुळं तिकडे आहे. अत्यंत आर्टिक्युलेट, आपलं स्वच्छ शब्दात सांगणाऱ्या, आपल्या विचारांबद्दल कुठेही स्वतःच्या मनात संभ्रम नसल्यामुळे ऐकणाऱ्याला सुद्धा काही शंका राहत नाही अशा पद्धतीने त्या मांडणी करतात. ते तर आपण सगळे अनुभवतो. अशा वक्त्या आपल्याला मिळाल्या. त्यामुळे मी त्यांच्याने आपल्यामध्ये फार वेळ घेणार नाही. मी ताबडतोब निर्मलाजींना विनंती करतो की त्यांनी आपला विचार मांडायला सुरुवात करावी. कार्यक्रमाची साधारण रूपरेषा अशी आहे की एक 20-25 मिनिटं निर्मलाजी बोलतील आणि नंतरचा वेळ आपण जो आहे तो प्रश्नोत्तरामध्ये आदरणीय निर्मलाजी.
To all Pune residents, and thank you to the organizers for having invited me here. But I'm very conscious that I'm in a city which for centuries has held its own and contributed to what I would think the mind space of our civilization. I'm very conscious that I'm standing before a select audience which is conscious citizenship of this city, the Pune Nagari, which I repeat, if you compare with cities all over the world, which for centuries have contributed in their own domain towards their respective nationhood or their civilization. And it placed cities from India also on it. Punya Nagari Pune holds a very unique position. For centuries, Pune has contributed to the mind space thinking process and also to the very important journey, whether it is in your political strategy making, whether it is in your economic thinking, or whether you're looking at sheer political management between a ruler somewhere and a ruler here. So whether it is defense, your strategy, your governance, whether it is your economic matters, there is a line of contribution which this city has offered. And today, in the context of a very critical election in India, we are discussing politics of development, and therefore, it is not just any other city, a city which has contributed to centuries of our political economic history. I'm here to address and to exchange ideas with you. Makes me feel very, very conscious of this exercise. I'm I'm laboring the point, but I mean it. And of course, it's a city where I can take so many wonderful names which are very dear to my heart. I'm not speaking like a regular, somebody who comes to talk to a city and says, oh, I know X, Y, Z, this place is very important, I know the importance of such people. But honestly, the economic thinking, the kind of spiritual guidance which I look forward in building myself up as a better citizen, I can take so many names from this city. I'll start with Sant Gyaneshwar, Sant Tukaram. I mean, these are not smaller names. These are very, very serious, spiritually, directly impacting names. So again, that makes me conscious. You're talking of Tilak, you're talking of Veer Savarkar, you're talking of, Jyotibai Phule, you're talking of Maharishi Karve, you're talking of Tarabai Shinde, many more. So this is a city which is highly charged, a city which has been contributing not with just random occasional thought, but consistently distilled the thought which is very important for Indian mind. And therefore, I feel very honored, I feel very small, but extremely grateful for the organizers to have called me here to talk in front of you all, talk before you, and also to draw a lot of thoughts from you. That's the background with which I'm directly coming down to today's politics. So somewhere in the back of my mind all this prevails when I say the last 60 years of Indian political, economic journey has been very complex. The first 50 years have gone in a very command-structured economy, command-structured political decision-making, a very committed development of only the socialistic value system, where all India thought it fit that it's a new republic and therefore we have to experiment with a lot of things, although we had an inherited legacy of so many different things which would suit our background. We were willing to experiment with a lot of things. But it wasn't as though it was a very clean transition from a colonial rule to what it was to be a democratic elected representative parliamentary democracy. It wasn't that either. We were trying to do a lot of experiments within that, and you had an authoritarian Congress which was trying to tweak it to its favor because it wanted to please a certain set of audience rather than look at India as a whole. So that is a broad sweep definition that I would put of the first 60 years. Which today, just for the sake of convenience, I will call this the old economy. Just for convenience, I don't have much of a strength in defining that economy of the first 50 years with those expressions. Because then somebody can tell me what's the economy which was pre-colonial, not older. So I'm not getting into semantics, but for our understanding, the first 60 years, if you call it as old economy, post-globalization, post-opening up of the Indian economy, post, if you think from Jansang days, the BJP also looked at free enterprise, not controlled economy, where we were talking about other Indians who are basically very entrepreneurial to function, and that's been our stated economic policy, but within the understanding of India as an economy which has its own subtleties and nuances. The new economy, for convenience sake, I would say after 91. If you look at the transition, my understanding of the transition is absolutely unprepared transition. We were not even prepared to see what impact this opening up is going to happen to us. As a result, although the opening up was happening, somewhere the controls also persisted, because whether we wanted to fully open up the economy or not is something which the establishment didn't get a hold of. As a result, we were talking about a transition which is completely unprepared, unready, and nutrition and food. All right, we moved 20 years after that. The opportunity which the NDA created in terms of looking at immediate work which has to be accomplished, which will have a long-term bearing on the economy, whether you're improving on your infrastructure, where you wanted to bring a world-class infrastructure within a quick period of, we didn't think whether it was 6 years or 10 years, but start with earnestness. You're right, Mr. Singh, when you explained about the achievements during NDA in road building, but those kind of achievements are there for every sector. The rapidity with which and the commitment with which NDA really opened up the economy is unrivaled, but at the same time, there was a look at the economy to be just careful not to damage any one sector which has been traditional. I'm again jumping very quickly. That partly explains the position that we take when we're talking of FDI retail today. Because I know a lot of young minds who've been traveling abroad, coming back, seeing that open market culture, a culture where consumer is the king, coming and telling us, what's the problem? You have not stood for development. You have not stood for open economy. You after all wanted minimum governmental control. Why are you not wanting to favor FDI and retail? And some would say, isn't the BJP the one who started it all? But I'm bringing that context and giving the explanation. But what I broadly want to tell you here is development is not a new idea. Development is not an idea which has come now that the economy is being opened up. After all, what was Kautilya's Arthashastra? It defined the idea of what a ruler has to do with this economy. In an economy from where, which Modi ji now repeatedly says, like a honeybee, you just want to delicately sit on the flower and extract the honey without making the flower wilt or break or even, suffer because of the heaviness of the bee sitting on it. You want to generate income, and from the income, the government also would want to take something as taxation, but the idea is not to damage the income generating sources, not to damage the flower which gives you the honey. But what has happened in India is, in the name of residual socialism, we still go on only looking at tax generation without facilitating entrepreneurial structures. And therefore, if the detailed description which was given in Arthashastra tells you what is the basic essence of governance, tells you what is the basic essence of what a ruler is expected to do, it is this, and that is govern minimally, but make sure you create an environment which is suitable for people to do what they want to do and with dignity continue doing it. Now, essentially, when we're talking about BJP's line of argument on economics or on dealing with matters which are development oriented, it is that spirit that we want to bring in, where there should be minimum governance, no regulations and controls which are going to stifle people from doing what they want. At the same time, be sure that you're going to be able to take some, revenue generation from the society so that there are basic functions of the king, which is protecting your terrain, making sure that your people are well secured and safe, policing for any unwarranted lawlessness, and making sure those who are really at the periphery of the system do benefit, so that you're not neglecting any citizen. But today, there is a topsy-turvy of priorities, particularly in the last 10 years. If you notice the way in which we are repeatedly talking about rights and entitlements without making the citizen's life safe, secure, and to leave him to decide how he wants to move forward. And therefore, the economy or the developmental logic and arguments with which BJP and particularly Narendra Modi wants to talk about is that kind of an economy where you're sure that you are able to give the citizen a safe environment, people have of a sovereign government. When an investor comes from outside, what does he do? He'll look at the institutions which are going to deliver governance. Whether it's the courts, whether it's your police, whether it's safeguarding your interests through your ministries, various ministries which give you regulations for functioning, whether it's the government. Are they reliable? Are they sticking to their words? Are they going to ensure fair law and fair play of law, rule of law prevails? But in the last 10 years, not only that this financial investors from outside are not coming into the country, but very clearly, those who are born and bred in this country, whose core industries exist in this country, have taken away the core businesses, their own core businesses, and are going out to other countries because it is easier to operate abroad. Effectively brought in, implemented, or even making to allow the people to benefit from it because of the way in which this government is functioning. And that is where the contrast between BJP governments and particularly the way in which Gujarat or Madhya Pradesh or Chhattisgarh have evolved their own strategies. In this context, I would like to explain one point. Repeatedly today's discourse on development, just only to corner Mr. Modi or corner the BJP, are repeatedly the questions asked are, oh, is it only Gujarat model? Are you wanting to bring in the developmental model of Gujarat, which as per their perception is only in favor of the big businessmen or large industries, which is going to be adopted? I would want to clarify here that when you talk about development, even within India, each state has its own assets. And they are not just tangible assets, they are also softer assets of states which are not so tangible. For instance, take Kerala. You have very skilled laborers, skilled qualified manpower, skilled qualified and mobile people who are willing to go anywhere and who would function in. That's been a trait of that state. Now when you're talking about development and Kerala, is it not important to find enough resources to have jobs created in Kerala so that those who choose to live there and earn their living are given an option? Kerala has been one of those states which is desperate for a lot of good industries to be started. Whereas what we find in, say, other states, for instance, Gujarat, people repeatedly say, oh, Gujarat has always been developed. So what is the big deal? What did Modi do for it? The argument there is it's always developed, and let us assume when Modi ji came in 2002, on a scale of 10, assume it was at 5. Today when you look at Gujarat, if you had an indifferent government, or if you had a government which did not have out-of-the-box thoughts of how to build your state, it could have still remained at 5. Whereas what Mr. Modi has done is to move it further so that agriculture, which was never contributory to the GSDP of the state of Gujarat, today contributes to the GSDP of Gujarat because of imaginative and creative ways of dealing with agriculture. Gujarat is not known for regular good rainfall. Groundwater was depleting. Agriculture, except for cotton, has never been as rewarding and remunerative activity. But in the last 10 years, the way in which it has been dealt with, groundwater table has come closer to the surface. People are not spending too much energy to have a deep borewell to extract that water. Greater sense of awareness has been brought into the farmers to say don't excessively use water. Your practices should be healthy for your crop and for the neighborhood. So much attention has been given for generation of electricity in such a way, or distribution of electricity in such a way that the farmer doesn't have to wait like we wait in Andhra Pradesh. Early 2:30 in the morning to get single phase power for him to go into the fields. Snake bites have killed more farmers in Andhra Pradesh because they go into the fields in the nights at ungodly hours because that's when power is being given. Whereas Gujarat, the effective distribution network has made it possible for a farmer to know when he is going to get 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, and 24/7 single phase power in his house. He knows when he has to water his land. And therefore, the contribution of agriculture to the economy of Gujarat has benefited the state. So if you're talking of a scale of 10, and if industry and business and trade has given you up to 5, the lopsidedness of that development has been corrected and amended so that not just industry, not just business, not just commerce, but also agriculture and service sector equally contribute to the GSDP of Gujarat. Now, if Gujarat model is to be discussed, it is these kind of aspects which we have to highlight. But in BJP, every state has its evolved, formulae for developing their economy. Go to Madhya Pradesh, again a state which was soil rich, but the farmers had no, facility extended to them, support price or dealing with them at the local level. Today, Shivraj ji has achieved that, what was otherwise impossible in a BMRO state. 18% growth in agriculture and resultantly highest contribution to the national procurement of grains goes from Madhya Pradesh. Why couldn't this be possible, let us say, when Congress was ruling? National procurement of grains for the sake of Food Corporation of India so that it can be redistributed all over is a major, massive exercise. And if national food security is an issue, today BJP ruled Madhya Pradesh gives the highest contribution. So, it is all very well for our opponents to go and say, oh, Gujarat model, oh, Kerala model, Gujarat model has no heart, Kerala model and model elsewhere has a lot of inclusiveness. I want to argue that if we go into the depths to see how states benefit by a ruler or a chief minister who comes out with imaginative, alternatives to strengthen every sector of the economy. Whereas I would challenge Kerala, the Congress and the LDF, which have ruled in Kerala, I come from the south, with such a wonderful, humanly trained, skilled, articulate and mobile labor which is available in Kerala. Shouldn't it be providing a greater contribution in some or the other sector? Whereas what we see in Kerala, and classically at that, even malnutrition is highest in some pockets in Kerala. They were after all talking about welfare economics. Why should you have malnutrition in Kerala? So, underlying point is, if you have a government, if you have a chief minister who looks at the state with a lot more openness and follows every scheme to the logical conclusion, every program, I know this debate of malnutrition in Gujarat. People who say, oh, some districts of Gujarat are no better, malnutrition is a problem. Till 2007 it was a problem and that was admitted by the Gujarat government itself. But what happened after that? If the national malnutrition level was declining in a certain percentage, Gujarat's declined rapidly. And the levels reached by Gujarat were far higher in terms of containing malnutrition than the national average itself. Why does that happen there? After all, if you're cursing, Gujarat saying, oh, there, malnutrition, we have addressed, we are doing a lot more inclusive economy. Whereas in Gujarat, you're not, you're only catering to the large industries. Why will malnutrition decline faster than the national average? And that is why I take this point of every issue is followed up to the logical conclusion. There is an issue, I'll address it and show the difference. There is an issue and for which I not only allocate money, throw money and hands off the whole thing, I will follow it up, therefore there won't be any misuse of funds. Whereas Congress's approach, for instance, in dealing with poverty eradication, from Mrs. Indira Gandhi's time, we are hearing only of poverty eradication through 20-point program to 15-point program to specific sections being addressed about poverty eradication and so on. But till today, the Congress approach has been throw money forget it will sort itself out. Because that's not happening in Gujarat. That's not happening in Madhya Pradesh. That's not happening in Chhattisgarh. Addressing poverty also requires a lot of administrative attention. 20-point program on poverty eradication from Mrs. Indira Gandhi's time is better implemented in Gujarat, and for which the Prime Minister gives an award to Gujarat, and not a Congress government gets the award on it. So in a way, repeatedly, only just to corner Narendra Modi because he's been announced as a prime ministerial candidate, and therefore you want to show him in a certain light as different from what your chief ministers are, is a tactic which Congress may adopt. But clearly, BJP governments have shown that their approach to governance is to make sure that the checks and balances which prevail in the system are adequately used, and in order to bring in transparency, technology is brought in. Online bidding for auctions or for jobs which are big ticket jobs are all ideas which the BJP has brought into governance. And therefore, long and short of it, development is definitely, there is a politics about it. When I was telling Madhavji, when I saw the poster, it said, politics of development. And then there was this, somebody sent me this poster saying, oh, this is happening, you're coming, we're very glad you're coming. You're talking of politics and development. Actually, if you look at it, there is only politics of development in India. We make a political argument about it, but actually delivery on development is not from the Congress. And even within 6 years, during NDA government, we showed what is all-round development. When you facilitate citizens to carry on with their jobs, with their enterprise in a better fashion, and when your livelihood is dependent on certain infrastructural facility. Modi ji often gives an example, which you must have heard. In villages, the farmer may be working in the field. The lady who sits at home, at least if there is bijli, will be able to do some tailoring work, would be able to, when the husband comes home or when the children come home or when the wife comes back to a house, is able to cook because there is bijli. In the nights, the children are able to sit and read. Additional income is possible because even sitting there, most of the farmers are learning through certain, Gujarati material from where, what is the soil card, what is, the seeding, the weeds that have to be removed. All that is possible in the later evenings if your infrastructure reaches them, roads reach them, electricity reaches them. So the facilitation for a man to do or a woman to do her business is what is very critical to development. So development need not be, am I sitting and watching just a bridge being built, but what is the fallout of that on me and my neighborhood? So, in a way, underline the basic BJP Jansan philosophy that you reduce governance to the minimum. Make sure the government is not something which controls people's growth but facilitates it. Make sure you don't frighten people off with regulations but facilitate them to do what they want to do, and make sure you reach out to those people who have less facilities with support mechanisms rather than just talk about rights and throw money at solving it without having an action plan which goes to the logical conclusion. This is where BJP, Narendra Modi, Shivraj Chauhan or Dr. Raman Singh are proving in their own way as to how we mean development as something which actually touches every person's livelihood. I won't want to elaborate. I think better would be for you all to ask me questions and therefore I can speak and give answers.
लाभ घेऊन मोदीजींवरचं आणखीन एक पुस्तक प्रकाशित झालं आहे. त्याचं डॉक्टर गिरीश दापकेंनी लिहिलेलं पुस्तक होतं नरेंद्रायन. त्याचं हिंदी अनुवादही आता आपल्याला उपलब्ध झाला. हिंदी आणि इंग्रजी दोन्ही अनुवाद उपलब्ध झाले. हे करणारे सुमंत विद्वांस या ठिकाणी आहेत. या पुस्तकांच्या प्रती आम्ही निर्मलाजींना भेट देतो आणि त्यांना विनंती करतो की सुमंत विद्वांसना पुष्पगुच्छ देऊन त्यांचा सत्कार करावा. आजच्या कार्यक्रमाचं वैशिष्ट्य असं आहे की खूप वेगवेगळ्या क्षेत्रातली खूप मोठी व्यक्तिमत्व आपल्यामध्ये उपस्थित आहेत असं मगाशी मी म्हणालो. आम्ही सगळेजण यांच्याकडे गायडिंग कोर्स म्हणून बघतो. असे प्राध्यापक अनिरुद्धजी देशपांडे आपल्याबरोबर आहेत. पुण्याच्या शिक्षण क्षेत्रातलं एक खूप मोठं नाव प्राध्यापक मुकुंद तापकीर आपल्याबरोबर आहेत. संस्कृत क्षेत्रासाठी ज्यांनी 60-65 वर्ष तपश्चर्यासारखं काम केलेलं पंडित वसंतराव गाडगे आपल्याबरोबर आहेत. IT क्षेत्रामधले खूप मोठे उद्योजक नरेंद्र बराटे सुद्धा आपल्याबरोबर आहे. आणि अगदी ज्याला आजचा उगवता तारा म्हणायला हरकत नाही असं मराठी सिनेसृष्टीतला आबा विरळकर सारखा कलाकार सुद्धा आपल्याबरोबर आहे. वेगवेगळ्या क्षेत्रातली खूप नामवंत व्यक्ती या ठिकाणी काही सहज समोर दिसत. खरं म्हटलं तर आपल्यापैकी प्रत्येकाचा एक परिचय करून द्यावा अशी व्यक्तिमत्व आता इथे आहे. पण मी तेवढा आता नाही घेणार नाही. आपल्याला बरेच प्रश्न निर्मलाजींना विचारायचे त्याची मला कल्पना आहे. आपण माहिती
तुमचा प्रश्न फक्त थोडक्यात विचारा आणि समजा इंग्रजी किंवा हिंदीचा विचारा आणि सोपा जाईल.
Hello, Namaste Nirmala ji. Here.
प्रश्न विचारताना परिचय देऊन प्रश्न विचारा.
My name is Chandrasekhar Patwardhan. First of all, wish you best of luck for getting simple majority for BJP. So there will be predictability in policy next 5 years. And my question is, we want to know the thought process of BJP on the banking sector reforms and allowing the private industries in banking. Thank you.
At the moment, the position that we've taken as regards this government is that they should not be issuing any licenses to new bank requests or applications. We fear that the current government has long lost its mandate, and on a sector like banking, we do not want them to take hurried decisions. So on that, currently we've taken a position that this government should not hurry through it. But in the long term, and also with 2014 post-elections, the BJP will certainly look at how the banking sector's full potential can be released, whether we are looking at Indian banks, Indian applications, or applications from banks which have come from abroad or institutions from abroad will have to be handled. I think post the new government formation, there will be a comprehensive look at it and a call will be taken at that time.
Next.
Good evening, madam. My name is Mandar Bade. I am a chartered accountant. You touched upon one issue relating to Vodafone, though you didn't take the name for the reason you better know. The way you talked on the subject gives some hint that the BJP will not be amending anything retrospectively. I mean, that is understood. If there is some loophole in the system, the thing has to be changed, the law has to be changed. But that has to be done in prospective manner and should not be done in a retrospective manner. So, can you please elaborate your own thoughts on that?
See, the point I made there was, much before that particular matter came to the Supreme Court, and after quite a few discussions and arguments placed, suddenly as though it went on a retrospective mode. Tax reforms or certain tax-related issues which become litigated do have a lot of arguments on both sides. There are ever so many mechanisms to sort these out, whether you do arbitration, whether you have an out-of-court discussion, because it is not just one case. Post that one case, you have a bearing on so many other institutions and affairs company related, which can bring in a long-term impact on the economy. And therefore, the approach that the BJP would encourage would be to make sure if there are any anomalies, to have experts sit and talk about it and look at it in such a way that it does not negatively impact on the economy. And certainly, of course, there are occasional times that you may have to do things in retrospect also if it was a legal anomaly. But how far back is also something which one has to look at. So I think a lot more positive way of doing it, rather than go back to the memories of socialist regime where we would want to control and take controls to the very end of possibility. That will be avoided.
Good evening, Nirmala. My name is Nirmala. I travel across India and certain pockets in India which are developed and contributed to India's growth. What is BJP's plan for its 5 years? So all states contribute to India's growth or development.
Yeah, you're right. That is a major concern. And it is not just some states are not developed, some other states are better developed. It is also within developed states there are regions and sub-regions which are not really benefiting by, let us say, the cascading effect of a developing economy. So, actually look at the economy in a far more vibrant way, far more buoyant way, and if necessary, many states need to have hand-holding to make sure that they open up and be able to take everybody on board. It is very disheartening that regions which are far away from capital city of any state do not share the benefits of development as much as those which are near. This is a commonly understood argument, but I can tell you several parts of the country, the regions which are close to the capital of any state, I am not taking any one state's name, are still waiting for development. And if I remember correct, during Uttar Pradesh state assembly election, there were coverages in the media. I'm just taking this as an example for immediately understanding the context. There may be many such states also. I'm not just pointing out at Uttar Pradesh, but only about 150 kilometers away from Lucknow, there was a village which did not even have electricity reaching them even for street bulbs, which was covered by the media. I'm not generating it. Similarly, there are areas in every state which, not only being close to the state capital, have not really benefited from every aspect. The last mile of the road is not available, or the drain and sewer is so pathetic, drinking water doesn't reach them. Leave the discussion about toilets. So, you're right, but largely issues of reaching out to the last mile relates to also state subjects. Whether you're looking at states of law and order, for instance, the saddest part in Chhattisgarh, recent attack, was the police and the armed forces, the paramilitary forces, were facilitating for road building. And at that time they were ambushed, they were killed. And that's been the argument which the Maoists have been telling us. No development reaches these tribal belts, and that's why we are taking up their cause. Road building is not development. The last mile connectivity being given to that Basti or the small settlement, which is a tribal settlement, is what the government was trying to attempt. And that is in the remote Jiram Ghati. And that is where you have Naxals attacking when the police are helping to lay the road. I thought the whole argument of the Naxals was if nothing reaches these belts. So these kind of play up of political arguments which can be conveniently posed to obstruct development are issues at the state level. And these will have to be taken on board at the National Development Council or National Integrity Council. Most of these institutions just function without taking the ground realities in the context. And I think therefore there has to be a rethink, relook and fresh approach to dealing with these issues.
Good evening, ma'am. It's an honor to meet you actually. And I'm from the India 272 team. My name is Vishal Chaskar. My question to you is, when we talk of development, we've always been, from what I've look out of BJP in the sector of education, in the sector of entrepreneurship, what is the amount of budget you would be allocating to research and planning specifically when I speak of it? Research as in to the ground board, how should an education go forward for the next 20 years? What should be the what should be the needs which are going to arise in the next 20 years? Like a vision wherein we are creating the product, we are developing it and we are engineering it, not just copying it.
See, education is a sector which is, to me, we've made it too complex in India. We've had great tradition of education. I'm sitting in Pune, where the Nirmala Education Society has done brilliant work. Their experiences are very, very sharp, and people know about it. Like this, there are few other regions also in this country where education-related experiments have happened. And India was one of those early countries which looked at ways in which education investment can be planned. And the Yashpal Committee report, if I remember correct, late 1960s, wanted up to 6% of the GDP to be allocated for education. Till today, we have not managed to do that. 6% of GDP was the estimate then, and till today, we have not even reached that 6%. But is it because we don't have money? No, we have money. And in fact, the question, which of course any government will have to answer, I'm not posing it as though it is a government, only the UP which has to answer. Any government will have to answer. We are paying an education cess on every 1 rupee that we spend. The government, other than allocating funds for education, all of us pay education cess. If you go buy petrol, if you buy cigarette, if you buy BD, if you buy salt, if you buy anything, every 1 rupee that you pay has a component for education cess. So it's not want of money. Again, education is I said we made it complex. State subject, to some extent a central subject. Higher education and the control of quality in education are the center. UGC has been there for now so many decades. We are still having quality of education suffer. So many private universities have come, but they are being again controlled rather than facilitated. Questioned rather than asking them to go ahead with better. I'm not saying there should not be any oversight at all. You need oversight. Quality of curriculum, delivery of curriculum, good teachers, yes. But the way in which it is now designed, it is restricted. Excellent people who can contribute to education are out of education sector. Those who are doing it like a rigorous day-to-day job are the ones who are finding job in the education sector. And as much as many sectors, I hope nobody sort of misquotes me on this, as much as many other sectors, every kind of politics has entered into our education sector too. Every kind. I'm not going to name this or that. Every kind of politics has entered there. And finally, therefore, the outcomes are not satisfactory. You might have an Indian association which is looking at school outcomes or college outcomes. I can very clearly tell you, students who came out of engineering colleges couldn't write their own resume. Leave English, they could speak in their own bhasha about, let us say, any problem that they have to look at. A water tank leaking for the government sector, you go and see what best can be done about it. This young engineer is unable to even tell us what he understands of that. Is there a structural problem? The man is unable to say. We've skewed our education towards get a certificate, you should pass an exam. But eventually, will you have the skill to talk about it, skill to take your jobs? That is why Modi ji talks about skill development. Skill development, whether it is at school level, when you are leaving the college, you should be ready to take on your own profession in a very, very, expert manner. Unfortunately, if your skills to communicate are not there, what is it that you're going to convey? So, our education system has reached a stage where we have answers for everything, but we do not know how to communicate it. And as a result, the quality of education suffered. You find many good quality people who qualify from Indian education institutions doing brilliantly well abroad, but we are not going to facilitate them here to, there was a time when Atalji's Sarkar came, people started talking, brain drain is being reversed. A lot of Indians were going abroad for good jobs, good working conditions, were coming back because job satisfaction is possible here. You're getting opportunities here. Now that reverse drain, which was making people come back, has not only settled in educationally qualified people, but unskilled and skilled and entrepreneurs and capitalists, everybody is going out of India. So what the government can do by not doing anything is this classic example. Policy paralysis, but such a paralysis that people are saying, you be with your paralysis, I am going back, I am going out. That's where you need imaginative and dedicated leaders who understand the soil of this country, the people of this country, not people who sit and say, we will give you money, you don't have jobs, I'll give you money, you take it, you don't have food, I'll give you food, you take it. Genuine taxpayers, irrespective of the amounts that they pay, are continuously being followed, pursued, with an assumption that they may evade tax. And actually, people who evade tax are never caught. They are happily taking their money out and having them stashed in tax havens. You're right, it hurts people's sense of nationhood, people's patriotism. Those who pay the taxes do not even get a recognition. I'm certainly very touched by your suggestion. I will pass it on to the party. There should be a way in which citizens who are, being citizens who are genuinely contributing to the economy should be recognized for what may be their duty. But the fact remains that there are more people who are breaking their duty and taking the money out rather than people who are staying and paying genuinely to the tax. And as regards the vision document, manifesto, the charge sheet that we are fighting against the Congress's failure, omissions and commissions and corruption, there will be a charge sheet against this government. There will be a manifesto again. Trying to say why BJP is a better alternative, the kind of things that we are coming up with, and of course the vision document. Vision document which is not a manifesto but which is a long-term idea of what we want to do for this country. All these will be released. First of all, I think the candidates list are top priority. After that will come.
आता डाव्या बाजूला संधी देऊ सगळेच उजवीकडे लोक
My question is, do you think that coalition politics will be an obstacle in providing a stable government and ultimately hard developmental process?
See, as regards coalition government, I have a not so popular thought, but I have a reason to have it. Not always does coalition politics result in not so stable governments. Not always does coalition politics result in non-delivery of governments. Take the example of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who ran a coalition of almost 23 parties. Was there a problem? In 5 or 6 years, the kind of achievements which the government could show without scandals, without corruption, is unbelievable. not make coalition appear as if it is an evil. States and regional aspirations are very, very high, and therefore there may be regional parties which will come and join a coalition, and therefore if there is a clear-headed leadership, if there is a leadership which can exist with the collection of political parties which form an alliance, if there is trust between them, if there is a good management of that kind of a coalition, it can also perform and perform well. Whereas now, look at the coalition which prevails. We all know it doesn't work. We all know it doesn't deliver. But I don't want to let out what will come out as a charge sheet point, but certainly this is public knowledge, so I will tell you. In the last 10 years, more particularly in the last 5 years, major scandals and scams resulting in humongous loss to the treasury are about 50. 50. You will see that when the charge sheet of the BJP comes out, all of them are listed, and for many of them we have given you not our own assessment, CAG, or documents which come out of media, giving you the amounts of loss to the treasury, runs to thousands, lakhs and thousands of crores. This government running a coalition, speaking of coalition dharma, actually speaking of coalition adharma, has allowed all this to happen, and the Prime Minister has not got it fit to answer for it, because the arrangement of this government is the political management lies in the hand of the UPA chairperson Srimati Sonia Gandhi, and the execution of the government, which I don't need to elaborate, is in the hands of Dr. Manmohan Singh. And therefore, when the coalition partners or others are all at odds with the government, the chairperson doesn't have to answer. And the Prime Minister who has to answer doesn't have the political management as one of his portfolio under his hand. That's not a portfolio, but I'm saying the division of power is such that somebody who's got that portfolio doesn't answer, and he doesn't have the portfolio to answer. And therefore, end of the day, corruption keeps happening, coalition adharma keeps happening, but we have a Prime Minister who occasionally might say, coalition dharma doesn't allow me to speak. End of the day, coalition politics has been used conveniently as an excuse for turning the other way when corruption is happening, has been used conveniently to tell you, I'm sorry, I'm not able to perform because I have people who are not cooperating with me, which is not true at all. Did Vajpayee make it possible to govern? So this strategy of twin-headed leadership has conveniently helped the Congress-led UPA to get away with this atrocious list of 50 major corruption scandals, for which no one till today, I'm sure the processes will be on, courts will take their time, somebody will get punished at some time, but it's not happening as things are coming out. We may have to wait for another 10, 20 years, but the fact of the matter is, coalition under one clear-headed leadership, committed leadership, clear leadership, enabled this country to grow. But the coalition under this leadership, where the leadership is split conveniently, nobody answers, adharma continues, and we as people are watching it.
एक शेवटचे एक दोन प्रश्न.
Good evening, ma'am. My name is Sachin Bouquet. I am a student of University College. We assume that there will be development, and India is a development country. There is economic development, industrialization, and people are very happy. But my question is that, and simultaneously we are asking, Indian people are asking Western culture, then Western culture, and so then what about Indian culture and our culture and value? So, what is your personal view on this? So, what question would you like to give for Indian people or us?
See, I don't think the threat to Indian culture is as bad as we think. Of course, there is a threat. And the threat your own. It could be some channels which are open for you, which are not reflected also from within. The greater coherence that we have because of a family system is definitely breaking down. Once your security which comes through your families, that collective moral support which is available to you from your families is disbanded. And when there is so much migration from your traditional background, your own villages, your own cities, you're moving to a totally alien setup, a lot of your conflicts arise because of the interests which are very diametrically different. So that is a major issue on which I would think if only we are able to handle our city, village, town planning better and also make sure that we don't deny urbanization, but not to uproot our villages. If villages are made to be livable, if villages have such facilities where villages don't feel, what do I get out of this place? I'll tell you a classic example, a small example. We all say we don't get good teachers in villages. I'll take the example which I personally see. Good teachers get appointed, and this man who I knew was a very good teacher in a government school had to go from the district headquarters, travel for 2 hours to reach a village where he is posted. He does that sincerely. He goes every time and evening 2 hours travel, comes back home only by 8 o'clock. I asked him, why do you do this? After all, you are a committed teacher. Why don't you stay in the village? He said, I don't even get a house on the rent. There are just enough houses where people are living. I said, can you not ask the education department to build a room for you somewhere in the same school? He said, you know how long will it take? And why should only one headmaster or one teacher be given that house? It will become a big issue. So he said, I'm trying for getting house on rent, but I'm unable to get it. Therefore, the next question which I was going to ask turned out to be useless. So I said, at least in the neighboring village? He said, yeah, I don't mind. I'll take a house. I'll get my wife, my children. Where do my children go? I said, to your school where you're teaching. He said, I'm sorry. I may be a good teacher, but I don't want my children to be in that school. I may be a good teacher, but I wouldn't want my wife to sit at home and do nothing because she's equally qualified as much as I am. But there is not even a private school where she can go teach even for 100 rupees. So what have we made our villages to be? We want good schools, we want good hospitals, we want good doctors, we want good teachers. But have we created an environment where these people can go live? So, in a way, the problem comes back to us. We demand it, but we do not know how to implement it. You think backwards. You want doctors there? Why will a doctor come to a village? Does he get his payment? Does he have a decent house? Can he get his family? None of this backward-forward linkages happen to our policy making. You want a doctor? Shove the money. The doctor will come. If he doesn't, we'll take action. What action will you take on a doctor who doesn't even have a house there? Our planning has been completely lopsided. The Delhi-seated planning commission allotting money to states has made no sense. Again, there is politics of development. I will give it for states which I want. I will give it for states which are voted for Congress. But a state which is showing improvement and is asking for more, no way, you voted for BJP. And this is not an imagination. Gujarat suffers, Himachal suffered earlier. What is happening to the problem of Pune, the hate storm? Madhya Pradesh farmers don't deserve your benefits. Where is the same kind of thing when it happened in Andhra Pradesh? One whole year of crop holiday by farmers, the central government sent its team, they assessed the whole problem and said, let's see what we can give you. Why couldn't that happen in Madhya Pradesh? Politics of development.
Madam, I wanted to ask 2 questions. My name is Prakash Dharap. We are talking about the Gujarat development, but Arvind Kejriwal again and again blaming that there are 60,000 small-scale industries which are closed within 5 years, one thing. Secondly, the farmers whose land has been acquired for the big industry, they have got only 1 lakh rupees per acre. Instead, there is a market rate of 6 to 7 lakhs rupees. What is the truth of it?
See, it's good you ask me this question. Land acquisition law has come now. But before that, as regards Gujarat land relief, rehabilitation related matters, post the Nirmala issue, particularly after land allotment to industrial units which were coming, Supreme Court itself said, and which later the Planning Commission mentioned in brief, that the payment making mechanism after buying land from a farmer is appreciable in Gujarat, and the paying mechanism also is time bound. Most often when you acquire land from a farmer, government pays the money in installments, drags its feet for 3 years or 4 years, by which the market value increases. So the farmer feels that I sold at a bad market value, but when I am supposed to get the rehabilitation or relief money or the payment for the land, the cost of the land itself is gone. So he would think, why am I not benefiting from it? Whereas the formula that Gujarat adopted with time-bound way of paying back and assessing at the district and taluka level about the market rate have made the whole process transparent. And that is why Supreme Court thought it fit for comment. Now if Arvind Kejriwal wants to come and tell me against what the Supreme Court has said, do I take the Supreme Court seriously or Arvind Kejriwal seriously?
एक शेवटचा प्रश्न पंडित वसंतराव गाडगे विचारतील. कार्यक्रम संपल्यानंतर निर्मलाचे 5-10 मिनिटं इथे आहेत, आपण त्यांना प्रत्यक्ष
सीतारामन या दिव्या समोर बसतात. नमस्ते 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 नमो नमः. या संस्कृत भाषेत सर्वमाया एकाएव कृष्णाः स्थापते एतावत्कालपर्यन्तं यावन्तः कृष्णः आगतः ते सर्वे शिक्षाविषये विसृज्य इतरेषु विषयेषु शिक्षानीतिविषये एकोऽपि प्रश्नः नास्ति. यद्यपि अन्तिमे वक्तव्ये अत्र भवत्या शिक्षानीतिविषये चर्चा कृता. बैठकेषु अध्यापकानां कृते स्थानं नास्ति, विषयवर्गाणां कृते स्थानं नास्ति इति बहु भवत्या वक्तव्यं. नरेन्द्र मोदी महोदयः सार्धवचनं भीमाय महाकाव्यस्य प्रकाशनार्थं यदा पुण्यपुत्रं प्राप्ता आसीत्, मया एका प्रार्थना कृता, नरेन्द्र मोदी 17 भारतस्य महामन्त्री भवतु, संस्कृतस्य उपेक्षितं स्थानं पुनः ददाति राजधानी सिंहासने मराठी गुजराती वा सर्वासां भाषाणां या आदिजननी अमरकोशे ग्रामीण भारती भाषा. भारती नाम सरस्वती नाम केवलं संस्कृत भाषाया, परं इयं मराठी संस्कृत भाषा न ब्रिटिशकाले उपेक्षिता. द्वितीय भाषात्रयेन एज अ सेकेंड लैंग्वेज तस्याः स्थानं सुनिश्चितमासीत्. महाराष्ट्रेषु अस्माकं दुर्भाग्येन तृतीयं स्थानं चतुर्थं स्थानं अधुना शून्यं स्थानं विद्यते. दिल्लीतः दिल्लीपर्यन्तं महाभारतं सर्वत्र प्रचलति. भाण्डारकर संस्थायाः अध्यक्षा उपविष्टा विद्यते भट्टे महोदयः. तेन 100 वर्षपर्यन्तम् अधुना शताब्दीमध्ये मया प्रार्थितं तत्काले महाभारतस्य क्रियमाणं, परं संस्कृत जानकी संस्कृत द्रौपदी वा अस्मिन् भारतवर्षे स्वतन्त्रभारते ब्रिटिशेषु गतेषु निराधारत्वेन राज्यान्तरं भिक्षां याचमाना मदीयं स्थानं दीयताम्. सर्वत्र परिभ्रमणं दृश्यते. कृपया नरेन्द्र महोदयस्य प्रधानमन्त्रिकाले सर्वप्रथमं सर्वोच्चे स्थानं संस्कृतस्य दत्तं.
नाही, आपण आता कार्यक्रम संपवण्याच्या दिशेने जाऊन ज्यांच्या मनामध्ये अजून बरेच प्रश्न आहेत त्यांना आमचं फेसबुक आणि ट्विटर हँडल आहे त्याची माहिती देतो. मी मगाशी म्हणतो तसं कार्यक्रम संपल्यानंतर सुद्धा एक 10-15 मिनिटं आपण निर्मलाजींची म्हणू शकतो, त्यात काही अडचण नाही. आपल्याबरोबर पुण्यातल्या आमच्या भाजपच्या मनपा सदस्य माधुरीताई सहस्रबुद्धे होत्या, माजी संधी अधिकारी शंकरराव सातव आपल्याबरोबर आहेत, आणखीनही बरेच मान्यवर नागरिक आपल्याबरोबर आहेत. आपण हा कार्यक्रम संपवण्यापूर्वी फोन करते आभार प्रदर्शन कौशिक आभार प्रदर्शन करेल, मग कार्यक्रम संपेल. कार्यक्रम संपल्यानंतरही आपण निर्मलाजींशी 10-15 मिनिटं बोलू शकतो.
Thank you. I would like to thank Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji for taking out more precious time and coming here to interact with us. I would also like to thank Shri Madhav Bhandari ji, Shri Pradeep Rawat ji, and all the dignitaries present on the dais. And I would like to thank all of you for giving us such a huge response. Thank you very much.